Welcome to You, Me in the Counselling World. If you're a student counsellor, you've come to the right place. Today is episode 2. How to deal with feelings of not feeling good enough. How do you manage those thoughts and feelings, especially when you're just starting out? Let's get started. Hi there. Welcome back to episode 2. My name is Becky Whittaker and I'm a counsellor and a supervisor. Thanks for joining me on this episode today. I can't wait to share my thoughts with you on what is really a really common issue, especially around counsellors not feeling like they're good enough. And whilst they're training, this can be a real problem for people. I thought today I would share some thoughts and some tips and I guess allow you some space to really delve deeply into what you think might be happening for you. What is not feeling good enough? How do you learn to recognise what that is? Sometimes it can just feel as if, I don't know what I'm doing. Why are people coming to speak to me? What if I say the wrong thing to people? What if I make their situation worse? What if I forget the theory that I've learned and spent so much time trying to develop in my head? What happens if I forget some of it and it just disappears? What happens if my clients just don't come back? What do I do then, and how do I deal with the rejection that can feel? And wow, there's so much kind of caught up in this, and I think it's something which we've all experienced from time to time. That sense of just not feeling good enough, not knowing what on earth we're doing here in the first place. And yeah, why on earth would anybody want to come and speak to us? And today I wanted to really sort of touch base with you all on this and have a bit of a chat about my experiences and some of the experiences that I've heard about over the years and the things that have helped people to come to terms with understanding that being a human is good enough and really working on that in the sense that it's just you and another human in the room together. And wow, that kind of is where the passion happens, isn't it? That's kind of where the magic takes place. So this is just going to be my thoughts really, in a really kind of chatty and unedited way. I just want to bring a piece of me into this and to allow you all to perhaps get to know me a little bit, especially if you've taken the time to follow this podcast and to share it. I just want to say a massive thank you to everyone that's making that happen for me. It feels really, well, I guess still a bit scary today for episode 2, but I kind of feel like I just want to chat and, get some of this stuff out in the open. And I'm hoping that will be interesting and useful to you. So if you know of any student counsellors, if you're on a course and you've got other people there that, you think might be helped by this podcast, please do share it. It feels really important. And I would be so grateful to help push the word out further about what I'm trying to do here. To me, it feels like it can be quite a lonely existence being a counsellor and training and not being able to go home and talk to your loved ones about your day and not being able to chat about a client that might be worrying you or something that you feel like you might have done completely wrong. And yeah, I just want to make it a space which we can link up together in and make that conversation happen, because I don't think there is enough out there to really, I guess be there for each other in that way. And although we make friends, we can't talk about our work. We can't really delve deeply into what's happening. And we as counsellors can sometimes feel a bit on our own. And this podcast and the series that follows is all about putting some of those topics out into the world. We don't always like the people that we come across in our day-to-day. Sometimes we struggle to connect with people because we're all just humans connecting with other humans, and I think that is the most important thing. It's about being able to connect. And I guess that brings me on really nicely to the topic of what happens if I don't feel good enough. And it comes back to something which I often think about, is that counselling is not very measurable. It's not something which you can chart or have a look at a graph or download stats for in the days that we can do all of this stuff now. It's something which we don't get something to measure it by. Clients come back and they see us and they might tell us, thank you for all your help. But it's not measurable in the sense that you've got something tangible that you can hold on to. And I think that this ramps up huge feelings of uncertainty for people. And I think that it leaves people feeling a sense of, am I doing a good enough job here? Am I creating something with this person that's therapeutic, that's going to help them? Clients come to you because they want to work with you. They want to spend that time together with you. And essentially what they're signing up for is to spend that time, weekly or fortnightly or whatever it might be, with you in a space where you're not going to judge them. You're not going to offer them advice. You can be really relatable. You can offer them empathy and understanding. And they can offload all of their stuff. And they won't basically get back from you what you think they want to hear, which is what they might get from friends and family. All of this is absolute gold. This is the bit that gleams under the surface. And it's really special and a huge honour to be a counsellor working with clients. Clients don't get a relationship like this with anybody else in their world. It's unique, and you're bringing something that's completely unique. So when you think about, am I good enough? Am I good enough to make this happen? Am I good enough to help them? Am I offering them therapy? When you think about all of that stuff, then just remember there's something about you being with them that's probably the most important thing of all. I'm being with my client and I'm sharing something with them that they don't get to share anywhere else. And I think that that is just the most special thing that you can think about when you go to that place of, am I good enough? Let's have a think about what being good enough is. I'm wondering what you're thinking about that. Yeah, feel free to pop onto social media and, join my Facebook page. It's You, Me and the Counselling World. And come over and have a chat about what you think being good enough is. When we think about good enough, again, how do we quantify what that means? I think of good enough as, being professional. I think about good enough as being ethical in my work. I think of good enough as maintaining that really crucial confidentiality in my work. I think about being relatable and creating a safe relationship for clients. That's good enough. I also think about being consistent and available at the times I say I'm going to be available. If I've booked a session, I will do my utmost to ensure that I'm there for that session at the time I say I'm going to be. I won't be distracted. I'll be there and I'll give them my all for that time. And I think that that is a really important part of this. It's about that mutual trust together. It's about you together building something. And if you are a human listening to this, and I suspect very much you are a human, otherwise you wouldn't be clicking onto this podcast, there's something around knowing that that is enough. The theory is there and we know it and we use it as a structure in the back of our minds. But I think the magic really happens when we let go of that theory a little bit and we begin to just let it happen in the moment without being able to plan, because we cannot plan our counselling sessions. And I don't know how many times you've been to supervision and shared some great things with your supervisor, and your supervisor has given you some hints and some tips for you to take away and try. And you sit down with a client, a week or so later, and the opportunity never arises. You don't get the chance to say those things that you wanted to say. You don't get the chance to explore that thing that often, because sometimes clients have moved on and their world is a week later than when you saw them last. And sometimes we have to get used to that idea that we can't plan. We can have some ideas up our sleeves. We can have some thoughts there of things that we might like to share or revisit if we're able to. But essentially, we've got to remain with the client. So the client is talking to us and we are with them still, where they are right now, not where they were a week ago. And so by realising that you can't plan, You can't sit down and think, well, how am I going to structure this session today? Because you don't know where the client is going to go with it and what they're going to bring. By going with the client and entering into that process together, that is about you and them in it together, dabbling around in it and really getting into the crux of why they came in the first place. And if you understand what the client is coming for, what they're looking for, then of course what you offer them will be good enough, because it will be about you and them together, sharing and being together. And that feels to me the most important thing that I think that any one of us can offer, regardless of how experienced or inexperienced we are. Being a human and relating to another human in that way is just magical. And I guess you can hear from what I'm saying that I'm really passionate about it, really passionate about making sure that clients get that experience from us. Another thing that I think it's really important to bear in mind is that what we say in the moment is what we say in the moment, if that makes sense to you. We can be tentative with our words. We can be curious. We can be respectful. And by using that, again, we're not telling the client what we think they want to hear. We're not being disrespectful in our challenge. We're just being tentative and using phrases like, I'm just wondering how that is, can be really helpful to just gently check out with them how they're feeling. You can't always say the right thing in the right moment because, again, we're human. And in a day-to-day conversation that you might have anywhere, you're not planning what you're going to say next. But by ensuring that you're being respectful and tentative and talking with empathy, it can be really powerful to just share in the moment that together. And sometimes you might say something and the client says, oh no, that's not how it is. That's not what I was thinking. And that is absolutely fine. That's where those magic moments happen, where the client feels safe enough with you to say, no, that isn't what I was thinking. Or, no, you haven't got that quite right. It's not you not being good enough. That is the moment where the client says, no, it's not like that. And you can say, okay then, so what is it like for you? You can say sorry if I've made a mistake there, or sorry if I got that wrong. But please tell me, what is it for you? What is it that you're experiencing? And that's you being with them and entering into their world together, you and them. And again, it's a magical moment and so powerful. So we don't have to be perfect to be good enough. We don't have to spend ages scripting things out or planning or using cue cards or coming up with loads of amazing experiments to do with clients. We don't have to do that. By being together, that is so often it. That is good enough. Just having the relationship where the client can tell you all of those things that they may never have said out loud before, all of those things that's in their mind that they now feel safe enough with you to bring out into the open and for you to be respectful of what they're doing. That is where it is good enough to be you and to come into this just with you. You are a human relating to another human. And yes, the theory is really helpful and it's really good to know that theory and to understand what might be happening. But knowing it in the back of your mind and allowing it to just disappear whilst you're working with people is a really good idea. It's the best way to really get into their world, because if you're there thinking, have I done what I should have done, and am I following the theory, and am I following my modality to the letter here? If you start to do that, then it really gets in the way of you being together, because there isn't a one size fits all. This is different. Everybody's different in what they are bringing. And it's so important that you can just go into that place where you can say, actually, I'm just going to listen and be with you. And I'm going to be empathic towards you and offer you some empathy and understanding. Because that is so valuable in your relationship with them. And not judging them. And, letting them know that they can say whatever they need to say to you. And you will keep that safe. and you will hold them in that. It's just so powerful, and it's just so important. If you are a person that feels the need to really think about whether you've used the theory in your sessions or how you're relaying the theory into it, because of course it's important whilst you're training especially to think about the theory and to really understand what bits of that work for you. One idea that can be really, really helpful is to check in with yourself after sessions with clients. Check in with, what you've done and some of the interactions that you've had with them, and really think about that. Think about, how was I with my client today? How did I feel whilst I was with them? What might the client say about our time together today is another really lovely question to ask yourself. What would they say if they were with me now? What would they say about how our time was together? And one of the things that I like to really think about after I've seen a client is, what will they feel when they walk away from this session? Will they have gained something from their time together with me? Will they have something to work on? And I guess it's about asking yourself that question of, where is the therapy here? What are we doing that's therapeutic and that's going to help and guide them in the future? There's so many different aspects of this that you just can't plan for every eventuality. And the very fact that you can't plan means that you can just go into it without planning, without needing to go into a lengthy plan. But checking in afterwards can be really helpful during your learning phase. Well, and beyond, actually, not just for learning. I think it's important for everybody to do this. It's not just whilst you're training, it's a lifelong thing of learning and developing and growing as a counsellor, but also growing as a person too. Things will change over the years. They don't just stay the same. It's really important to be aware of that. Your level of experience will change. Your level of expertise will change. You might have special interests which you didn't have before. And gradually you will become the counsellor that you want to be. But always remembering that what you're doing is good enough. You're providing a space for people to come and see you. They're unaware of the theory and they're unaware of the ethics a lot of the time. And so long as you're aware of what they are and know them in the back of your mind, that, am I being ethical? Where's the therapy in this? What's therapeutic? All of those sorts of questions that you've got for yourself whilst you're reflecting after a session. And of course, using supervision to its absolute maximum. Exploring some of these things with your supervisor could be a really helpful way of delving into what's happening for you. But yeah, just thinking about what was therapeutic for the client and how might they feel now. Just going into that place, because that can be really helpful in your own development to really understand that. It can also be really great as positive evidence the next time you're feeling not good enough. The next time you're about to see that client and you feel nervous because you're not sure if you're good enough to be with them. You can look back at those previous kind of notes that you've jotted down about your own experience and about yourself and realise that actually what I'm doing is good enough because I'm here and I'm showing up and we're being together. And the power in that and the specialness, if that's even a word, just feels great. It just feels great to put it all together. So the next time that you're not feeling good enough, have a think about that and what's going on. Ask yourself, what is good enough? What is good enough for me to do with clients? What's good enough for me in my life right now? Because we're not asking for perfection here. Clients don't want to come and see a perfect person who's like a robot. They want to come and see someone that's real and lives in the real world. And I think that that's what you can offer them, because you're a human and you're relating to another human. So I really hope that some of this has been helpful to you today. And it's been really interesting for me to really explore this for myself and put this out there into the world for you all. And I really would love it if you come and connect on social media and, ask questions. And, eventually I want to run some sort of Q&As and things like that where you can ask me questions and I can talk about them in a future podcast. That would be really great and really helpful if you could do that. So please do come and join me on Facebook, come and like my page, and don't forget to follow this podcast so that you don't miss another episode. I'll be uploading on a Thursday at midday, so hopefully you can stick that in your diary and have something lovely to look forward to. I really hope that this has been helpful, and like I said, feel free to connect. Thanks everyone, I really enjoyed today's episode and hope you did too. I look forward to creating something new for next week. See you then, take care.